Not now, Mickey. I've got bigger things to do today. I got to dispel and prove right one of Disneyland's biggest rumors all at the same time. So if you look online at the many things that people Google search about Disneyland, Disney World, Disney parks, there's one that comes up that absolutely blows my mind. And I thought about it. Could I prove it right? Could I actually prove one of the most bizarre theories about Disney parks? Could I prove it right? And today, I think I can. Now there are so many different disciplines to the word design. And what makes Disneyland so special, all those different disciplines of designs come together and accumulate in this one space where everything that we know about how the world should be designed is implemented in this sacred space. And today we're going to break down how one of those design disciplines is in more places than you know, and technically could make the most weird Disney rumor of all time absolutely true, or kind of true, or that kind of truth that my grandmother taught me. Don't ever let the truth get in the way of a good story. And today I want to share with you a good Disneyland story. And today's story is going to start at the Haunted Mansion, which I think is the most easy way to understand the craft of today's subject matter and the person that I'm going to try to tell this design theory and this myth through. When you think of interior design, it's very easy to think of it as interior, as in inside of something that you're designing. So we're going to start today's journey looking at a certain item on the interior of the Haunted Mansion that helped today's subject matter to be the first Mexican-born Oscar winner of all time, and just so happened to be a cast member here at Disneyland. But when interior design goes into a theme park or goes into a movie, it becomes something altogether different. It becomes set design. Tables, lamps, different oddities, knickknacks, antiques, all put together to tell a story. And whereas in your home, these would be put together to tell your story as a family, inside of an attraction like the Haunted Mansion, these are all here to tell a different story. The backstory of the ride, the attraction, the characters that dwell here. Why is there 999 souls here, and when will they finally find 1,000? All of the clues are spread about in the DNA of the set decoration that we whirl past. And it's easy to focus on the animatronics because they bring the life to the attraction, but it's all these little vignettes in between that I think often give us the biggest clues of who these people were, how they ended up here, and where they're going to next in the spirit world. This story is stitched together with great set design. And even though it's a physical space that we're rolling through in our dune buggy, this same principle comes from the big screen, where set decorators work tirelessly to make every character that we see on screen look and feel more real, because we get to look past those characters and into their world, into their lives, and most importantly, into their story. And here we see the pipe organ from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, the 1954 film that predates Disneyland itself. The focus of today's story won an Oscar for his work on the set design of 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and went into the history books as the first Mexican to ever win an Oscar. And I love that this very pipe organ sits here inside of the Haunted Mansion, not only telling this story, but celebrating the story of a movie that predates the park, an accomplishment of one of its famed cast members. And of course, it would only make sense the same Oscar award-winning set designer from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea would also be tasked to design the interior of the sailing ship Columbia, where the next time you're lucky enough to ride below deck, keep in mind that that is Oscar-winning interior design all around you. He also designed the chandeliers inside of Club 33, which obviously I can't go in and show you, but I love this fun fact that he designed the chandelier on a way where it would be attached to a cable so it could easily be lowered down for cleaning and then heisted back up to create those perfect dinner vibes. So instead, I'll just show you the 666 or Satan chandelier inside of the Haunted Mansion, where there are 6 arms with 6 different candle fixtures that each have 6 candles on them, therefore making it 666. We'll use this chandelier to point out the 1 in 33 that we can't show you. And I do love the idea of not buying a chandelier, but custom designing one that you think fits the vibe of this special room, but also being clever enough to design the cleaning mechanism. It's one thing to see it as a beautiful set piece. It's another thing to understand it as a functional, operational piece of the park. I love that kind of designer insight and pre-planning to think about it's got to be pretty and it's got to be functional, which is kind of the core value of Disneyland. Everything here has to do a couple of things or it's hard to justify it taking up any space inside of Disneyland. So before we prove the rumor right, let's first look at some examples of award-winning set design inside of Disneyland, because it plays into our design theory and how we're going to prove the strangest rumor ever to be somewhat true. And also, we can't go to the 1964 World's Fair, but we can go to the piece of it that Disneyland brought back home for a souvenir, because the sets of the World Fair were also designed by today's subject. So interior design, what is it called when you do it on the exterior? What is it called when you do it in the real world? When you treat all the spaces around you as if they are a set piece, as if they are an interior piece inside of a movie, but it's not a movie. It's a place where you can walk around, live, breathe, create memories with the people that you love, but also know that every single piece around you comes from an artist's sketchboard. Everything is designed to give you perfect sight lines. What do you call that? Well, friends, you call that Disneyland. Disneyland is a living, breathing set piece that we each get to walk around, choose our own adventures, and write our memories with the ones that we love. So when you look on Google, one of the things that people search about the Disney parks is, do the Disney parks have a bubble over them? They're curious, is there a bubble over the parks so that the parks can always have perfect weather? Well, I don't think that there's a perfect weather bubble over the park, but the parks are inside of a bubble, and let me explain. And even though that bubble doesn't protect us from the weather, the bubble is that once you step inside of the berm of Disneyland, everything is a stage. Everything is a set piece, set design. Even though we're outside, we're still looking at interior design. And that's why I want to prove that there is a bubble around Disneyland. And that bubble is one of design. Design that creates disbelief that everything around you is real, even though it's a set piece. And that's why they call all of the employees cast members, because they're standing on a stage performing for each of us. And maybe we're performing too. But if you think about it, the bubble theory is pretty accurate, because only here can you be inside of a place where everything is thought out and designed perfectly for your experience. The bend in the road that I'm walking on, the curvature of the water, the rails, the plant life, the tree grooming, the sight lines, just as much thought went into each and every one of these pieces as did go into Sleeping Beauty Castle. Every inch of the park gets the same amount of TLC and design appreciation, knowing that it's an interlocking piece of a much larger story. So yeah, I think the bubble theory is correct, because where else would you see this much of your environment perfectly thought out and planned just for you? When Disney fans celebrate the World's Fair from 1964 and Walt Disney's attractions that he placed inside of the World's Fair, they often focus on Rolly Crump, Mary Blair when they think of It's a Small World. And rightfully so, those that design the attractions, that's what sticks with us. But there's a whole other level of design, such as the interior of all the set pieces and the interior of the pavilions that were designed by Disney. It's part of the vibe, it's part of what we feel when we visit these locations, and it's a part that often gets overlooked. But it's all those little pieces that create that bubble feeling that you notice by your senses that everything around you is turned up. It's heightened. And I do believe that's a part of the addiction that keeps people coming back and back to the parks, because it's hard to find something this perfect in the real world, but inside of the berm, it's easily found and discovered over and over and over again. Friends, if you're enjoying today's video, which is pretty niche content, please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, because this is the way that I can continue to make videos like the one today where I'm showing you the man that put the lamp in Walt Disney's window. Thank you so much for showing up, and thank you so much for subscribing to Hey Brickey so I can keep doing these history design vlogs. I absolutely love doing these and taking you with me, and I'll keep making them as long as you keep showing up. Thank you so much for subscribing to Hey Brickey. Now back to today's feature. And I think part of the Disneyland story that makes it feel so real is how effortless the environment around us is. If you were constantly thinking about how everything was designed around you, it would take you out of experiencing it. But the fact that it's just so flawless and perfect, our mind just absorbs it as reality. And that's done through amazing design. So much thought has gone into every path that we walk through in this park, and I'm appreciative for all of them. If Disneyland is a set piece, let's meet its Oscar award-winning interior decorator, Emile Kuri. Listed here forever on Main Street, but he made his bones in this world as a set decorator and art director, where Kuri won 2 Academy Awards for Best Art Direction and was nominated for 6 more. Nominated for The Absent-Minded Professor, Mary Poppins, Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, and also worked on It's a Wonderful Life and collaborated with Alfred Hitchcock. He would win an Emmy for the sets of Walt Disney's Wonderful World of Color. Emile Kuri's window at Disneyland resides on Main Street, above the Market House, where he's listed simply as interior decorator. He would join the Disney studio in 1952, where he remained a cast member for 23 years. And proudly, he also supervised the decoration of Walt Disney's homes and offices, and including Walt's residence here in Disneyland. Emile Kuri took his same design aesthetic that you can see over inside of the Plaza Inn, but applied it to the Disney family apartment here inside of Disneyland, where bright, lush fabrics, deep cranberry reds, and layering and texturing to make a relatively small apartment feel deep with its history and story and nostalgia. If you ever wonder what this looks like, the closest thing that you can find here at the Disneyland Resort is the Plaza Inn, where there's pieces of Emile's design aesthetic replicated over there in a more commercial way, but there's a smidge of what makes Walt's apartment so special. And I think that it's interesting to look at Disney as a mom and pop fly-by-night operation. They were all just a bunch of people trying to figure it out. They had no idea where the legacy and history was going to take them. Imagine having an Academy Award-winning interior decorator, art director, being the one that you say, "Hey, Emile, can you design my apartment on Main Street, or my office, or my theme park attractions?" But it definitely feels like this period in Disney's design history, it's all hands on deck. Nobody was better than the work or the task that was laid out in front of them. There was a real roll your sleeves up and just get it done attitude. And I kind of romanticize that. I like that. I know a lot of young entrepreneurs that have built businesses where nobody had very clear job descriptions. It was just like, we're building a dream, and we're all going to work hard to make sure that that dream doesn't turn into a nightmare. It's amazing to think that when you look out on this train deck, you're looking out on a play that's happening in real time, designed by folks that made movies but here at Disneyland made the big screen come to life. I mean, this is the beginning of virtual reality or augmented reality, where each of us have the ability to walk inside of a play, to become a part of the story. And when I think about this theory of a Disney bubble that protects us from the weather, although it may not do that, there is definitely a bubble around us when we're inside of the park. And that bubble is a perfection that cannot exist out in the real world, where everything belongs to bunches of individuals with different mindsets, different ideologies. The harmony, the style guide, just can't exist, and it shouldn't exist in the real world. But here, where it does, makes it pretty magical. So I'm gonna say the bubble theory is real in a weird kind of way. It was Emile Kuri who went to Baltimore and bought the old gas lamps that Baltimore was replacing, paying pennies on the pound for over 500 pounds, old vintage gas lamps. And the best part is not only was his thriftiness appreciated, but his authenticity, because this is one of many lamps in the park designed to replicate what Emile brought back from Baltimore. So Emile realized something pretty brilliantly. If you're going to make a Main Street USA that is a fake scale, you need gas lamps that lean in to that scale. Also, the gas lamps are more periodically correct for what Main Street USA is. So not only did the lamps meet the proper faux scale, but also the storytelling device of how a main street such as this would have been lit up in the 1900s. Design perfection, so perfect that these lamps used from Baltimore were actually cast, replicated to replace ones that rusted and needed to go away, but also are the same lamps that you'll find inside of the Magic Kingdom at Walt Disney World. That's right, the lamp was such an important part of the story that they took these, forged them, cast them, and put them inside of Walt Disney World. And at one point, Disney was so proud of its gas lamps that each night they would have a cast member wearing time period clothing that would go down Main Street and actually light all the gas lamps. Could you imagine that happening today? People would be like, what in the hell is that guy doing? Once when Emile Kuri was being interviewed about set design, he said the most difficult part is this, that it was important for it not to look like a set, but instead look like a home that someone had just walked out of. And I think if we think about Main Street USA, it feels so real to us because every little thought was put into capturing. Hey, how you doing?
Good seeing you, Granny.
Good seeing you. And I think when we look at Main Street USA, that accomplishment was made in absolute abundance, and the fact that this street feels so real to each of us as we come into Disneyland each and every time, greeting us like an old friend, a familiar place, a real place. It was also Emile's cleverness and savviness that purchased the famous Disneyland flagpole, which is actually a lamp pole from downtown Los Angeles. And I love that sort of, hey, we have a limited amount of time, we have a limited amount of budget, what can we find and make it work? And that's when your history becomes your legacy. A car had knocked over a streetlight on Wilshire Boulevard in LA, and Kuri rescued it at a cost of $5. Pretty great deal on a 65-foot tall flagpole where each day the American and California flag are raised to celebrate another day at Disneyland. And if you've ever wondered where these horse head hitching posts in Town Square, both here at Disneyland and the Magic Kingdom, come from, well, that's another Kuri creation. Kuri casted these from original antique hitching posts that he was given as a gift by the owner of the 1840 mansion where he worked on the Paramount film, The Heiress. The mansion where the movie was filmed was taken care of by Kuri so wonderfully that he was given one of these hitching posts as a gift for taking care of the home during filming. The original that he was given for many years lived in his front yard at his house in Corona Del Mar. But once again, these cast hitching posts up and down Main Street not only bring Main Street into the time that it's designed around, but into a level of storytelling where you feel like there's a little bit more to everything around you. There's a history to this place that was long here before Disneyland and will be long here after each of us. Emile also did the interior of Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, but I think a great moment that often can get overlooked is the great moment for each of us when we get to walk down Main Street, USA. And I've always described Main Street, USA, not only as my favorite land at Disneyland, but I've always described it as that little village, as that little village that you see at the bottom of a Christmas tree, that the train goes around and around and around while everybody is anxiously counting down to the day that they get that year's presents and get to give gifts to the people that they love. So when I think about this street having design elements all up and down from it that were put here by a guy that created the Main Street and It's a Wonderful Life, it truly is a wonderful life when we get to walk through somebody that worked on what is arguably one of the best holiday movies of all time. And man, do I love a holiday movie, and man, do I love Disneyland. So to get to travel back into a nostalgia, into a time that I and you were never a part of, but we get to enjoy it as if it is our reality, for me, it truly has made a wonderful life. So is Disneyland inside of a weather bubble? I don't think so. Actually, I know that it's not. I do believe, though, that it exists inside of a design bubble. And that design bubble is where I believe the magic starts. And that design bubble is what makes Disneyland feel real. And all the people like Emile Kuri have made that happen. And that I'm thankful for. So friends, thank you so much for showing up today where I can introduce you to the man that designed not only the Walt Disney apartment here on Main Street, USA, but the man that I believe put the lamp inside the window. I hope you enjoyed today's adventure. It's pretty niche content. So if you do enjoy it, do me a favor and sign up, subscribe to the channel so I can keep making videos like this for all of us psychos that love Disneyland history more than we love Disneyland popcorn buckets. Thank you so much for showing up. I can't wait till I see you again on Main Street, USA.
Like me, the song that the king sings to Aladdin, and before